Okay, yeah.
Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman and Mike McDowd. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. Today's trivia theme is miscellaneous trivia. We're going to have a guest who we're going to introduce in the next segment here. There are a lot of things to cover. Holy smokes. At some point, we have to talk about the Chicago Bears and was he a safety or a cornerback who just totally
The Miracle
blew
in
it?
Maryland.
What was it again?
The Maryland Miracle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because I was watching last night some Sports Center, and they made a few points that, I mean, you almost couldn't do anything worse. First, not even being part of the play, goofing around. Then when you come into the play, he's supposed to box out the Washington commander, and then he actually is the guy who tipped the ball to him. So yeah. Okay. And then World Series Game 1, pretty epic. And then now
City
the
of
Dodgers,
Angels, baby.
City of Angels. Yeah, we're one away from what do you got? A San Diego Padres. That's an old
I'm
one.
wearing my San Diego Padres t-shirt. That's my salute to LA. Love you, baby.
That's terrible.
Not really.
That's not. Padres should have stopped the Dodgers, and instead they let them.
Why do you think I'm wearing this thing, man?
World Series victory.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's why I'm wearing
it. This could have been the Padres' year. Mike, how old is that T-shirt? The emblem. It looks like an old one.
This is classic, man. I got this back in long time ago at Laguna Beach at a classic sports store. This thing is it's embroidered. It's beautiful. I love it, man. I love it. I'm breaking it out, man. It's all San Diego today.
Yeah.
I mean, the City of Angels is they're on a tear. I'm sorry.
No, they're looking
I'm
really
sorry
good
too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but you don't like the Yankees either. So, all right, audience, stay with us.
I hate them more now that they're losing.
Well, that's true. Audience, stay with us.
33 minutes. All I got to say.
You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Mike McDowd, Russell Jackman, and who's our special guest, Mike?
Who is our special guest? Boy, you know, I hail from the metropolis of Marin County, California. We went to high school called Terra Linda, which our vast audience does not care about. But the guy I'm introducing was a nemesis to our great high school. His name is Chris Fulton. He was a legend. Still is, at Drake High School. He was one of the phenom basketball players. In fact, in the San Francisco Bay Area, he was the player of the year in high school basketball in 1983, I believe, and just tore it up, played college basketball for my dad's alma mater, the University of Portland Pilots, go Pilots, and then transferred to the University of Utah. He's an interesting guy. He's a phenom basketball player, but he's also a husband, a father, and just an all-around good guy. I mention this for a very profound reason. His son is on the 15th ranked team in college football, the Boise State Broncos. His son is named Colt. What a name. Colt Fulton. I'm reading his bio right here, Chris. So that's what it says. But Chris, welcome to the show. And boy, as we're going to talk about your playing professional days, your coaching days, but as a father, you've got to be just about as thrilled as it gets to have a son who gets to put on that Boise State uniform and really live the high life in college football.
Yeah, it's appreciate you guys having me on, by the way. Thank you. It's been quite an honor. Yeah, as a father, you know, I couldn't be more proud of, you know, the kid he is. First of all, he's a great student and a great person and all those things first. But yeah, it's you know, as a basketball guy and a basketball coach, it's kind of unique for me because I've always kind of coached my kids and known too much about basketball, I guess, when they were growing up, and it wasn't really easy for them to have a father who had a coaching background. But with him, I'm more of a fan because I didn't play football. I wasn't allowed to back in those days. My father wouldn't let me play. But so, you know, bringing him up, we knew right away he was going to be a quarterback. He was a good basketball player too, actually. But it's just been kind of a joy just being able to watch. And I'm sure he'll tell you that, yeah, you coach me too, Dad. So don't act like you're not coaching me as well. But yeah, so it's been
this
fun.
kind of reminds me of Jared and Jerry Goff.
Yeah.
Jerry played professional basal, and his son is obviously for the Lions. And again, another Marin County boy. And which, by the way, I have a friend who his son played for Boise State. I guess they were in the Peach Bowl a few years ago. Winston Venable.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Very, very proud program. Obviously, they've been very good for a long time. The passion there in Boise is just amazing. They're very, they got great fan base. They travel everywhere. But going back to Jared and Jerry's a friend of mine and Mike's, obviously. But Jerry and I grew up playing basketball and baseball together. And Jared's been actually a mentor and involved in Colts life in football. And so it's a cool little backstory there too. But I'm super proud and happy. Couldn't be more happy for Jerry and the family and Jared. He's been through a lot, obviously, and where he is right now, especially how he's playing at the moment, it's just incredible. And we're just thrilled for him. So,
and I got to tell you, I got to ask Chris this question, Edward and Russell. I mean, his son, 6'4", Rancho Margarita, California, played high school at Santa Margarita, good-looking kid. I mean, Chris, could you orchestrate this any more like perfect? First of all, you named him Colt. I mean, is that not a freaking football name or what? Colton? It's Colton, right?
Yeah, it's Colton, but he goes by Colt.
But I mean, on the bio it says Colt Fulton. I mean, have you ever heard of a better football name than that?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Come on.
Worked out pretty good for him. He's been pretty lucky.
What's it like to be, I mean, you have your wife, obviously, is very supportive, but what is it like as parents? We know that Colton is not getting a lot of playing time, but he's on this team that probably will make the college football playoffs. What is it like as parents to see their son, obviously put on the uniform and just kind of hopefully wait for his moment? But I mean, regardless if he gets his moment or not, he already has his moment. He's playing Division I football, one of the best teams in America.
Yeah, it's special. Obviously, as a parent, you want your kids to have that ultimate success and be able to play. I mean, no one wants it more than he does, and it's frustrating for him. He hasn't really gotten a shot to play yet, and but he's an amazing teammate, and he keeps it all in perspective, and he realizes that. They have a special opportunity here. They just beat UNLV last week in a close game, which is one of the games we were kind of nervous about. And they have a nice schedule sets up pretty well for them, where they have a chance. They're going to be favored in every game for the rest of the year to go on, and that would put them in the college playoffs. So
how old is he? What year?
He's a redshirt junior, so he's actually going to graduate in the spring, but he has a senior year left if he wants it. So, but yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, is he going to want to go back?
I mean, I think where it is now, it's like he's like I said, he's a bright kid. He's got some great opportunities waiting for him outside of football, and I think he's kind of ready. Is where he's thinking right now. His mom and I both wish he would just go, play another year, because I feel like that's stuff he could regret someday as a former player. I tell everybody play till they drag you off the court, and trying to tell them that, but it's hard because it's like people don't realize. The time commitment, and more for him, he's a very competitive kid and he's not getting a chance to play. And, only one quarterback plays. People don't realize, you got 8 wide receivers that will play in a game. You only get one quarterback. So you got 4 or 5 other guys sitting there that want to play that don't get the chance. And so that tears him up a little bit, but he knows he's a part of something very special this year. But he's ready to go.
What is he majoring in?
He's in finance and minoring in statistics. So,
oh wow,
high GPA kid. He's been all academic, Mountain West every year, and so he has actually a great ability. They always say on TV when they bring him up, whatever, everybody says that he understands the offense better than the offensive coordinator. It's a kind of a running joke because he's really bright and he understands the game. So he actually has the opportunity to probably stay in coaching if he wanted to, but. He's just at a place where he's like, hey, like all of us when we get out of college, right? You just want to get out and make money, and you think that's all that matters. Yeah. But I mean, he may gravitate. He may really like business and finance and things like that.
It's always hard to stay in. I mean, I remember like after I got my bachelor's degree, someone had told me, you know what, just go right back, go right into your master's, because if you don't, it's going to be so hard to go back. And unfortunately, I did take that advice, and they were right, because after I got my master's, I just said, boy, I would not want to go back to school again.
Me neither, man.
Yeah,
But
I
we've
know.
talked to him about that. He'll have the opportunity to go back if he wants to, I guess. But it's more like, these kids are working. Colt's working 14, 16 hours a day right now with school and football. They go to practice, they go to school, and then he comes back as a quarterback. They come back for meetings, and I mean those are long days. And he's at a place where he's just had enough, and he loved it, and he's going to go out on a high note. I think either way. This year they won the Mountain West Championship last year. That was amazing. They played in the LA Bowl, and so it's been a great run. I wish he'd change his mind, but I'm at a point now where I'm not, trying to talk about him anymore. He's almost like, hey, I made up my mind and I'm good with it. He's earned the right, to do what he wants. He definitely has. So, but it's hard. It's hard. You want, for his mom and I, it's very difficult to not get that ultimate playing time, obviously.
Well, Chris, you don't have to worry about it, I think, because obviously 3-time Mountain West scholar athlete. Oh, and by the way, this is radio. The kid's about as good looking as it gets. He's got a career in modeling. Boise State uses him as a model in some of their football uniform poses. I'm like, who is this kid? Anyway, great looking kid.
You get that mom for that one, right?
Yeah.
So the boys and his two brothers actually do. His two brothers do model actually.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny, but I don't think he's interested in going that path. But
yeah, my son did that. He did some short movies and stuff like that. He goes, pain. All right, we're going to go to our first trivia question here, and again to remind our guests, if you know the answer, don't say anything yet. Wait till we get right back. You can answer the question. All right, here's our trivia question number 1. What body part makes up 15% of your body weight? All right, that's our trivia question. See who knows the answer to that. What body part makes up 15% of your body weight? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman and Mike McDowd, and our special guest, who Mike's going to reintroduce in just a second. Our first trivia question: what body part makes up 15% of your body weight? Anybody?
Skin.
I would guess the head, but I mean that's obvious, but it's probably not heavy enough. But
No, it's the skin.
oh,
That's what I just said. Skin.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. I
said skin.
apologize. That's also the largest organ. Is the skin?
Mhm.
The
Largest
skin.
organ. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But it's also, it makes up 15% of your body weight. Wow.
Yeah.
And in my case, it's probably about 80%. I need to kind of lose a little bit of weight here. Okay. All right, Mike, why don't you reintroduce our guest?
Yes, and by the way, congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 22-0 on Monday Night Football since 1992. Did you know that?
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That
It is
punt
crazy.
return and that kick return gave my fantasy team a huge victory this week. So I'm thrilled about that.
Nice.
Wait a minute, Russ. I thought you always have a bad fantasy week.
Oh, this week I was down by 25 points going into the Monday night game, and it was because of Pittsburgh's kicker, and I had their defense, and they saved the day for me, because what a pathetic performance by the New York Giants, who I think are ready to take the rest of the season off. I think hopefully they won't be on major Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football again. The Giants are just a complete car wreck.
That's the funny thing is whoever does the scheduling, you have to kind of guess ahead of time who's going to be a
Yeah.
good
I would
matchup.
have told you last year that the New York Giants weren't going to be good this year.
Well, part of it, I think, is just the fact that it's a big share of TV.
Horrible.
Oh yeah, big TV
yeah.
revenue for New York, just like the Yankees, obviously.
Just like the World Series, yeah.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, okay, so we're recording on Tuesday, and if I'm not mistaken, tonight is Game 4. So
Yes.
someone better tell the Yankees that.
Mm-hmm.
I know. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but because of the 1919 Black Sox scandals, I think this is the true. They ended up saying we're only going to pay players for the first 4 games, because they didn't want players purposely colluding to make it go 7 games so that they get paid more. Do you know that?
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Somehow
Well,
I
I
think Otani will manage.
Yeah,
Somehow
I mean,
think
I can't
Ohtani will
imagine.
eat
You know, I
through.
know what it's like to do that with your shoulder and then to be swinging a bat. I mean, fortunately, he's not my age, but that's. I mean, you got to have a little giddy up in there. You know, that's
Yeah, and of course they're blaming Aaron Judge. The Yankee fans are out of the woodworks. Jose Canseco says Aaron Judge needs to be benched. Come on, Jose. And then I love this. Skip Bayless. Aaron Judge has gone from MVP to postseason disaster, and now the Yankees are in grave danger of being swept. Don't these guys have anything else? I mean, come on, it's kind of obvious. These famous sports people are going out on social media to rip Aaron Judge, one of the all-time great baseball players in
He's
history.
batting 0.81 right
Yeah.
now in the series.
so. Mike,
Yeah,
I
it
got to
doesn't
say, the
matter.
one thing
Series
that
or
used
the playoffs?
Yeah, well, that's true. But you know what, though? I got to say, the one thing that used to drive me crazy about, oh God, who was the Roger Craig, the hum baby, right? His answer was, oh yeah, you got to go with who brung you to the dance, and it's like, no, you go with the person who's got the hot hand. And so,
Right.
you know, listen, love Aaron Judge, nothing personal against him, but if a
I have something
guy,
personal
if he's in a
against him. He
slump,
should
you
sign
don't
with the
you don't
Giants.
just go, well, sorry, we're going to put him in anyway. The whole idea is to win, and that's not an ego thing, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
right now, Freddie Freeman is the hot guy for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I think since Atlanta, every World Series since he played with Atlanta. It's pretty amazing what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
So he's
I
going to be
think-
the MVP of the World Series, no doubt about it.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So
I think the
speaking of which,
harsher-
got to reintroduce our guests here.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Our special guests via St. Augustine, Florida, via Marin County, California, Fairfax, USA. That is still a city, right?
Yes, it is.
Is a guy by the name of Chris Fulton, and went to Drake High School. They won back-to-back state high school basketball championships in 81, 82?
That's correct. Yep, 81, 82. State champs.
And you were the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area basketball player of the year, and you beat out, was it Gary Payton?
Well, guys in my class was Peyton's a little younger, but it was Brian Shaw.
Brian Shaw.
Yeah, Kevin Johnson was in Northern California, but I played against all those guys in college too. But yeah, that was the 82 was the first ever high school state championship in California, and we won that.
Oh,
and then 81,
that's
we were NorCal champions, but there was no state championship. We were ranked number 1, so it was quite a ride. And you were around there, Mike, so you kind of know. You talk about those times; they were different, and it was really a special team and community and everything. Playing, I think 3 or 4 games in the Oakland Coliseum, and so those are great days, no question about it. Great teams, great people, great coaches.
And then talk about your career after that. So you go from high school phenom.
Yep, and then I go on to college. I go to the University of Portland, where my high school teammate Dan Hunt was a year ahead of me, and so I joined him at University of Portland. Was there for 2 years. I'll tell Mike this: in high school, I was 92-3 in the 3 years I played varsity basketball, and I go to Portland, and they were lower rung team in the mountain. Well, it wasn't Mountain West. We were in the Pacific Coast, whatever.
West Coast Athletic Conference.
Yeah, same thing as Gonzaga was and is, or I don't know if they are now. But I played, and John Stockton was actually a senior when I was a freshman, and that's another story we could talk about with him guarding me. But we lost 3 games in 1 week at Portland, and it was just hard on me, and it was hard on Dan too. But I just got to the point where I'm like, I love my coach. He's very tough, but I loved him. He made a man out of me, as I told Mike, and my teammates. But it was like I got to get out of here or I got to accept losing, which I didn't want to do. So. Yeah. I decided to transfer to Utah, which was a big program, and it's a great move for me.
Let me ask you, Chris. With as good a player as you were in high school, did you get offers or scholarships or anything?
Yeah, I did. Not as many as you would think. Back in those days, there was no AAU, and so that's how kids are recruited nowadays. I would have probably, in today's world, would have had offers from everywhere in the country. I had some schools recruiting me. The knock on me probably was that they thought I was too slow. Which I proved was not a problem, and they didn't think I could guard at the next level, which I ended up being, MVP of my team, whatever, best defensive player, and they didn't have a all defensive team in the WAC when I was at Utah. I certainly would have been player of the year on defense because I had some great games against some really good players, and so I kind of dispelled all that. And but either way, it all worked out. It was a great ride for me, and Utah was I made the right decision, and it was just a phenomenal experience. Playing against some of the people.
For me, speed wasn't an issue. So on, as an adult playing in pickup games, I mean, my offense was terrible. My defense was very good. So I just stayed at the other side of the court, just waiting for guys to come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mike can tell you too. Mike saw me play. It's like if you watched me in high school, you wouldn't say he's slow at all. It's just at the next level. They were
A little
like
slow.
Mike's still bitter because we beat his team a few times, a couple of dramatic, and some of them very dramatically. And so I knew I could play. And actually, Stanford actually recruited me really hard. And then they didn't think academically, I wasn't the most focused academically in high school. And they didn't think I could make it there academically. And I honestly, at the time, if I was older, I would have gone to Stanford in a second, right? Just like with my kids. If Stanford offers you, you go. But at that time, I was like, I don't really want to go to Stanford. I want to go somewhere, stupid. But it was Portland. And, I enjoyed my time in
Can
Portland.
you imagine the pressure on you, though? I mean, if you're kind of wobbling, about it, with all the academics that would have been placed on you for Stanford. I mean, I get it.
I definitely wasn't prepared to go to Stanford academically. I wasn't smart enough. It was just I didn't study in high school, and and it's all stuff that you learn. My kids are. We put them in an environment where we made sure I got away with a lot. My folks didn't inspect stuff like that. And we did it a lot differently here. My wife's really bright too, very bright. My kids are all really smart, thank God. And good looking, like Mike said. And that's all. My wife's half Japanese, so they have a very unique look to them. And but she's really, really smart, and the kids are smart, and they did very well academically because of how I didn't prepare myself. I was going to make sure my kids, you always want your kids to be better than you, and my kids are in every way. So that's what you hope for. So
it's interesting. Just from an economic standpoint, I was hearing that this generation of kids is the only generation since George Washington to have it not as good as their parents. Isn't that crazy?
Sounds about right.
They can't buy a house, and interest rates being the way they are, and all. It's stuff that throw that.
Cost of living and everything is insane right now. Trying to buy a house, a 25-year-old kid trying to buy a house these days, it's like that's not possible. It's just not.
Really, really tough. Hey guys, so let's go to our second commercial trivia question here, and then we're going to jump on to some other epic sports. Okay. Again, since Chris, you know a lot about sports, of course, join us in the conversation. Which skyscraper gets struck by lightning the most in the United States? Which skyscraper gets struck by lightning the most? Pardon my English. I only had 6 years of high school, so again, which skyscraper gets which skyscraper gets struck by lightning the most? All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Mike McDowd, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Chris Fulton. All right, our second trivia question. Which skyscraper gets struck by lightning the most?
I'm going to guess the Sears Tower.
Yes. Well, isn't that what it's called? The Willis Tower in Chicago? I think it's changed to the Sears. Yeah, very good. A lot of people think it's the Empire State.
I was going to go with that one too, Russell. Yeah, good. As opposed, I would think it would have more lightning in Chicago than New York. I don't know why. I just think that.
Exactly. That's the reason. Yeah, because usually it's
I went on a tour of the Sears Tower, and they said that during the tour. So
okay, well that's almost like cheating, but no, I'm just kidding. Okay, hey, real quickly, I got a stupid joke of the week. You guys ready for this? This is kind of fun. Okay, so a guy joins a monastery and takes a vow of silence, and he's allowed to say 2 words every 7 years. After the first 7 years, the elders bring him in and ask for his 2 words, and he says, "Cold floors." They nod and send him away. 7 years pass. They bring him back and ask for the next 2 words, and he clears his throat and says, "Bad food." They nod and send him away. 7 more years pass. They bring him in for his 2 words. He says, "I quit." And they say, that's not surprising. You've done nothing but complain since you got here. Okay. All right. Mike, reintroduce our guest because I know you want to hear some fun stories.
Yeah. Listen, want to welcome in a guy that had the pleasure of actually meeting on a plane as he was coming back from his son's game in Jacksonville, Florida. His name is Chris Fulton. He is a phenom basketball player and coach, played at the University of Portland, University of Utah. He's a husband and a father. His son is currently on the 15th ranked team in American football. That's college football of the Boise State Broncos. And we've been talking about what is it like to be a father of a son. But Chris also, and Chris, before we go, talk really quick about the potential Heisman Trophy candidate at Boise State. He is a stud. Tell us a little about him.
Yeah, Ashton Genty. He's everybody knows about him now. If you brought his name up 3 or 4 weeks ago, most people are like, who's that? But because Boise's doing so well, and he's really the front runner and the straw that stirs the drink, I guess you say, for Boise State. He's just an amazing talent. And nobody's been able to stop him. Last week against UNLV, he had only 138 or 128 yards. They did a pretty good job on him, but honestly, there was about 4 or 5 plays where he almost broke free and got a shoot, caught or something. But he would have gone for massive runs. But he's amazing. He turned down a lot of money to go. He didn't go in the portal, but still, that didn't stop all the big, Power 5 schools from coming at him and offering millions. I think he had a $2 million offer, but everybody's offering over $1 million, and he stayed at Boise State, and I think they're giving him $300,000. Just a really high character kid. And then one thing I'll say about Boise State too is the coaching staff and the culture there is really special. I mean, they only bring in good kids that want to be a part of something special, and they're good teammates. And if they're not, they don't last long because the team, really operates that way. And Ashton is, he's a leader, and he's a high quality, high character kid. And from what I see, he's the leader of the Heisman race right now. And if we can go through undefeated like we should, we'll be favored in every game. I think he wins the Heisman. He's that dominant. He's that important to his team. He's going to have a season like no other running back ever has. And if they're in the playoffs, to me, it's a no-brainer. He's going to be, first running back most likely in the NFL draft. And he's that special. He's going to have a great long career. And so he's special.
Chris, you come from a strong family, grew up in the Fairfax, California area, suburb of San Francisco. But, you had a good life. You have a good life. Your family's special. I know your brother, Mike, great coach, great person, close to your father. You love Christmas time. But one Christmas at the University of Portland, guess what? Chris was home alone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. So at Portland, we always played in these Christmas tournaments, and so I'm my first year away from school, and everybody knows, anybody that goes away from home far enough where you can't go home on a weekend knows how hard it is even to go away from school. It's a huge adjustment, but Christmas time is really tough. And so it's my first year away from home. I'm 18 years old, and we're celebrating Christmas. We're in a hotel in downtown Portland waiting to play in a tournament, and it's rough. You got all your friends and family are home celebrating. You miss everything and everybody. And I was feeling really sad about everything and sorry for myself and all that. And I went up to the hot tub of the Marriott there in Portland. I went up to get in the hot tub. It was late at night, like 11 o'clock. I was by myself, just sitting there, all sad. And crazy enough, Julius Irving, Dr. J, came walking into the pool area, and he was actually with Moses Malone. Of course, I knew both of them were. I was a huge Dr. J fan. Everybody was back then. He was, he had Larry Bird and Magic, which this is like in '83, so they were well on their way. But Dr. J was, he was right there with them, every bit as good. And a few years before that, he was the greatest. So I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to bug him. I know everybody in the world tries to talk to him. As an athlete, I was just like, I'm just going to just sit here and not say anything. And they both got in. He said, hey, I said, what's up? And he just starts peppering me with all these questions. Like he knew, right? You could tell, he knows that everybody knows who he is. And he was just trying to make my day is what he was doing. And just started asking me questions. We started talking. I said, I'm here for basketball. He started talking about that and really wanted to know about my game in Portland and everything. It was just, a really an incredible moment. And by the way, Moses Malone didn't say one word the whole time, which was fine. But Dr. J, I'll never forget that moment. And I've always heard before I met him and after, of course, like just what a gentleman and what a great person he is. I think he always had that reputation, and it was 100% true because he just made my day, and he knew it, and he just went out of his way to just be a super, super kind guy.
That's
And
really sweet.
it was really a cool moment. Yeah. And nobody really believed it. Like my teammates, and I'm like, hey, I just met Dr. Day. Yeah. Okay, sure. Whatever. But then they saw that they played the Blazers.
What were he and
They
Moses
were
doing?
playing the Blazers on like Christmas Day. That was back when the Blazers were good.
Oh,
The 76ers.
gotcha,
It was Christmas Eve, maybe.
Yeah.
And we were playing a few days after that, but our coach would never even get us like 2 or 3 days off to go home for Christmas or anything. Like in Utah, we got to go home for like 4 or 5 days, but Portland was like, nah, you're coming, you're in the hotel, we're going to practice. And he was so hard, man. He was like, we're going to practice 3 times on Christmas Day just so you guys aren't feeling sorry for yourselves. That kind of deal. So, but I loved him for it. And
that sounds like me as an employer. I tell my employees, I said, listen, you'll get Christmas off, but only if it falls on a Sunday.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you fit right in with my coach, so it's good.
And Edward, I was telling Chris yesterday, if I may just add a quick nugget. I was a television reporter in the San Francisco Bay Area working in Santa Rosa. Charles Schultz, the great cartoonist, owned an ice skating rink called the Redwood Empire Ice Skating. It's beautiful. Anyways, his gift to the community every year, he'd put about $1.5 million to do a Christmas ice show. So
that's right,
I was on the mornings. I was the morning show. I was the weather guy. And I went ice skating and interviewed all the stars. Snoopy was there. So I'm sitting on the sidelines real quickly. And this guy comes up to me. I'm like, hey, good morning. How are you? And he said, hello. And I said, oh, hey, how are you, Mr. Schultz? And so Charles Schultz just starts talking to me for a few minutes. I'm going, wow, I know. I was a little taken back. And he said, oh, thank you so much for coming out and covering this. Oh, it's my honor, Mr. Schultz. And he goes, hey, let me ask you a question. I've got a table that's reserved in the cafe just for me. Would you like to join me for a hot chocolate? Come on. I mean, look at, what was so cool about Charles Schultz? And I'm embarrassed to say this. I didn't get to ask one question. He asked about me and my family. He wanted to know, like Chris, he wanted to know about myself and my family. About who cares about me? I want to know about you and your life, But anyways, just a little added. So the great people you meet in life, they're humble, good people. So it's a blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Now, Mike was telling me that, Chris, you played overseas?
Yeah, I did. I went and played in Australia for a couple of years. And then my knees were just shot. I had to give it up. And at 27, I started coaching. I actually coached in the league, the pro league that I was playing, and I ended up being a head coach in that league when I retired at 27. So that was interesting, coaching in a league where I just played against all those guys. And, my team, and, most of the guys on my team were older than me. That's how I got into coaching. My coaching career started there in Australia. So,
but back then, wasn't as much of an international, like now, all the international teams, there's a lot of famous people playing in the NBA, but back then
there wasn't very many. There wasn't very many. Basketball wasn't as good. I think the Dream Team changed all that. I think when they played, everybody got interested, and basketball is just huge everywhere now. And it's not, abnormal to see. I don't know how many foreign players are in the league, but there's a ton, now back then there's maybe 2 or 3. So and the disparity between Americans and local players in Australia was like, it was huge. You'd have to score 35, 40 points a game and do everything. And the players there weren't as good. Nowadays, there's 100 guys in Australia that could come here and play Division I basketball. And usually guys, and they have their national team now in Australia, every one of them has played in the NBA. So back then there hadn't even been, I think Andrew Gaze, who's a friend of mine actually in Australia, the most famous, he carried the Australian flag out in the Olympics, and he was the first player to play, I think, in the NBA, one of them, or maybe it was Luke Longley, but there's been a couple early on, and then it's like, but now, all over the world, it's just basketball is a huge sport.
Patty Mills is still playing, and who was it? He played for the Warriors for a bit. He used to be the Warrior, little kink in the Warriors armor. Vega, I can't remember his name.
Oh,
anyway,
Marshall
Marshall Owens,
Karunas, he was awesome. But that was the same area.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can we spend the last couple of minutes? I'm sorry, I want to cover just generally sports, that's going on right now. First of all, Tua, he's had those concussions and he's come back, and I don't think he's wearing that special helmet, is he?
I didn't see him with a special helmet. I know
Is
he
there
talked
any
about it.
concern about that?
I don't think he wanted to play with that on. So, I mean, as a quarterback parent, and I was telling Mike this, one thing I'm grateful for is that my son hasn't played because he hasn't gotten hit. He hasn't gotten any concussions, and he's had some. He had a bad one in high school, and arguably maybe a few back in the day, before we even knew what they were. And I see two, and I'm just like, I'd be begging him to not play football anymore. As a parent, and it's just scary because that stuff's all coming back. At some point. I pray to God my son doesn't have any long-term issues. Even with the few that maybe that he's had, but it's hard to watch. I don't even really want to watch him now because I'm afraid to see him get hurt again. It's almost sickening to see because you just understand what's happening to him and what's going to down the road, what it's going to be like. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's going to be hard as a parent to watch your son. I mean, you want to watch him play, but then, watching him play basketball is a little different than watching him play football.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling Mike this, like people don't really understand as a parent of a quarterback, he's throwing the ball and everybody's watching the ball go down the field to the receiver. And my eyes are on him to see if he's going to get up on every play because he's getting hit pretty much on every play most of the time. And I could tell by the hit, I've seen it so much. I'm like, is he going to get up from that one? Is he not? And I pretty much have an idea of what's wrong with him, so.
Yeah. And, I mean, fortunately now they have better rules for protecting the quarterback, but still, it's still going to be that way. Okay. Are you guys ready for our last trivia question here? What was the tiny pocket in jeans originally meant to store? Okay. You know what I mean? So in 1873, Levi Strauss had this feature in the original waist overalls. And they had a little tiny pocket. What was that originally meant to store, right? What were you supposed to put in there? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to come back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mike McDowd, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Chris Fulton. All right, third trivia question. What was the tiny pocket in jeans originally meant to store?
A key?
Pennies?
I was going to say a
pennies?
lighter, but it's too soon. But
A lighter is too soon. No, ready? A watch.
Oh, that's
Really?
right.
Oh, yeah.
A watch,
geez.
a pocket watch.
That's right.
Yeah. Originally, that was what that was for. Mike, you wanted, before we cut out here and thank our guest, you wanted to mention something else about the concussions.
Yeah, too bad last week against Notre Dame. Anyways, just had to mention that. Yeah, Jack Tuttle, one of the quarterbacks at University of Michigan, retired because of a concussions that he's received. In fact, another player, and I forget which team he was on, also retired. And so, it's really starting to take effect. A lot of these players just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna protect my health. I don't blame him.
It's too bad that he hasn't had the chance to make the money in the pros yet, but we'll see where that comes off. Chris Fulton, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to have you back on again and get into a little deeper conversations. These hours go pretty quickly.
Crazy. It was fun. I'll come back anytime. I enjoyed it, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. And here's our thoughts for the day. So Orson Welles, he was kind of a big guy, right? He said, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what's for lunch. Big guy like him, I could see that. And growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. I tell my wife that every day because us little boys, as they say. All right, audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Go Padres. Go Irish.